to create a fully immersive design. Yeah, cool, right? Look forward to that. Okay. And also second speaker, we have Henry Yu. So he is the founder of Keller Studio, or I call him the father of Fuzor. Yeah. Fuzor is your baby, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he will talk more about how to apply Fuzor in construction stage, and talk some about the new features. And as you may be aware, Fuzor has a latest version. This is a very great changes. Yeah. So he's going to talk more about that. Yeah. Okay. So look forward to hearing the great speech today. But before that, you may have some handout today. It's actually not a handout. If you want to learn more about Fuzor, there's a course organized by Ivy and Fuzor to teach you how to become a cool VR architect. How to use Fuzor to do the interactive design. So you can take a look at that. So yeah, it's a cool thing. So and you can register. Okay. So time now is 2:30. So without further delay, so let me invite our first speaker, Matthew, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. My name is Matthew Giddy, and I am a licensed architect in the United States, as we said, and I also do VR architecture. I'm also the VP of Business Development for Fuzor and Cali Studios. So I'm here today to talk to you about the very interesting developments we have in the VR world that you definitely don't know about. And I'm also here to answer a lot of questions, some very specific questions that you've all been thinking about, but we haven't been able to solve. We haven't had answers, but now we do. And I want to show you those things today. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is, have you ever seen a video game and wondered why the materials in that video game look better than your model? Why your model doesn't look as good as a video game? And the reason why is because of PBR materials. PBR materials are the reason why video games and other elements look so much better than what we produce, because the quality of the material is so much higher because of the number of maps that they're using. So right here, this is a PBR material that comes from Substance and Algorithmic. And you can clearly see this does not look like your average SketchUp material, does it? There's a lot of different elements that make this material special. This is where PBR materials are typically seen. This is an Unreal video game environment, and you can even see that there are some architectural elements in the scenes that are using those models and using those materials and elevating the level of the scene. We're even seeing a little bit of reflection here and the detail of what we get even in the distance. It's very impactful. So what is a PBR material? And how does it compare to a normal material? Well, it's actually quite simple. PBR stands for physically based rendered materials. So I'll get back to that in a second, because I just want to show you quickly what a normal material looks like. The materials that we deal with on a daily basis all the time, they typically have one or two maps, if you're lucky. In SketchUp, we have one map. We have a texture map, and that's all we have. In Lumion and other different programs, sometimes we get to play a little more, and we get two maps, because we'll get a bump map on top of our texture map, right? And that gives us a little more richness to the material. The result is similar to this, what we're seeing here. How do we create those materials? Well, as an architect myself, I go online and I search for the material that I'm looking for, and I look for seamless textures. And then I apply those seamless textures to my model, and wood, cobblestone, but it's only a one-dimensional application of the material. Here is an example of a PBR material, and we can look at some of the maps that are happening at the bottom here. You're looking at a PBR system can have anywhere between 4, 6. Currently, the most advanced system is in Fuzor 2019, which has a 6-map system. Unreal uses a 4-map system. Lumion and SketchUp use a 1 or a 2-map system. So what does this mean? What do these maps do to the material? Well, what happens is we start off with a texture map, or the albedo map, and then you replace the bump map with a roughness map. And then you add a metallic map. And then you add a height map. And then you add an ambient occlusion map. And what you result is with these very rich materials. And these are the maps that are making up this one material here. So we have 4 map system for this material. We have a 4 map system for this material here. And look, we can look here at the detail and the richness of this material on the screen. These are all PBR. We can also do materials that have transparency to them as well. So creating metal grating or things like that for railings or for floors is really interesting, very successful. Again, 3 maps making this PBR material here. And what is the result of this? Why is this important? Because the more maps that we apply to a material, the more richness and detail we get out of that material. And this is a level of richness and detail that we want to bring to our clients. Why do we want to bring this to our clients? Why do we want our clients to look at this material and really, really get engaged and really get involved? Well, the reason is what I just said. We want to engage them. We want to involve them in our process and engage them in the project process that we're doing for them, because this engagement leverages decision making. And decision making is what moves the project forward, and this is what we need to do every day. Again, more results of PBR materials. The layering of the different maps are creating this level of surface, this level of floor versus this. That's SketchUp. That's a 1 map material system right there. We're just getting the texture, that's all. In Lumion, we're getting 2 maps. Looks pretty good. Doesn't look like this though, does it? This is Fuzor. This is a normal material from Fuzor. This is a PBR mapped material from Fuzor. It's a major difference. In fact, really impactful when you get close. Because what happens to all of our materials when we get close to them? They degrade. They degrade into pixels. You can't get close, but here we can get extremely close, and there's no degradation of quality. So again, what does this all lead to? It's really leading to the client being convinced that they are where they are. And with that, they can make decisions with much more ease. And without us talking to them, we can just show them. So a normal material here, PBR material. I'll go back quickly. The change in the floor is pretty drastic. We're getting all these nice reflections and all these different things of dimension and depth are happening in our model that are further engaging our clients with what we're doing. There's some scenes here where we have a mixture of materials, PBR and normal materials, applied to a normal, regular SketchUp model. And here, we have some detail. Because now I've got some really detailed washes and elements on our bathroom, and I've applied PBR materials, and I look how close I can get now. Look how detailed we can stay. But you know, all this is really interesting to talk about, but it's not as interesting as showing you. Because I know, we think that talking about it is one thing, but actually doing it and showing you how to do it is another. Because I could be lying to you guys right now. I could be posturing and saying that all this stuff was really easy, but why don't I just show you that? Why don't I just show you how easy it is? So right here we start with the SketchUp model, and you can see on the screen, this is the SketchUp model that I have. We're all used to seeing the SketchUp model. And it's got a single map system. What happens if I took that model and I just drop it right into Fuzor 2019? Very quickly, what happens? This is what happens. This is what happens without touching anything. Just drag and drop the model into Fuzor. No PBR materials though. So let's change that. The floor is a really great place to start because it adds some depth and richness to the scene. So I'm going to start there and click on the floor just very simply, and I'm going to add a concrete floor. Boom. Seconds. But, let's go a little further than that. And let's look at the fireplace a little bit. Because this is a focal element in a lot of spaces. So I'm browsing through my PBRs and I have this painted concrete material. I'm just going to apply it. Now let's just get close to that a little bit so I can show you live that I'm not lying. This is the PBR materials, and this is the truth of the PBR materials, that you can actually get this close. And you can see the reflection and everything loading in the background. The depth of the material is paramount, right? Also here we have this, and I'm just going to go quickly here because, you know, workflow is very quick. So I want to go click on this chimney element for the fireplace. I'm going to make that galvanized metal. You know, we might as well make the collar galvanized metal too because there's no match. And again, we'll get close and you can see that that is really galvanized metal being applied to that. It's very convincing as well. But again, let's go outside a little bit and play around because it's really interesting because we definitely deal with outside scenes. And this brick wall, let's get close up to that. It's pretty ugly, right? It's not something that's going to impress our clients. But, however, by using Fuzor, clicking on that brick wall, and just simply going up and finding a preloaded material that I have, just clicking on that, and then just to give you a little bit of an effect of how the sun reacts to these materials. So you can see now, I'm going to get pretty close. This is the power of PBR. The power of PBR allows us to get close to the material, to convince and engage the client in the scene. Now, where do these materials come from? Where can we find these materials? Well, there's a company called Substance, and you saw their logo earlier. They're I believe, the leaders in the world for creating PBR materials, and we actually just formed a partnership with them. So we allow you to take Substance materials and load them into Fuzor with one click. One click. That's loading 5 or 6 maps with one click, right? Now, if you're not using a Substance material, there are plenty of websites, freepbr.com and all this kind of stuff, where you can download the individual textures for free and load them into Fuzor one at a time for free. And then save them, and then again, you can pull them up instantly and apply them to the scene within seconds. And just to show you one last, little interesting, because water is not really water until it's water, right? Until it's actually water. So the power of this, the power of what we have, this is one of my favorites. Click on here and, God, don't you want to just create metal really quick like that? Just like that. No maps. I just clicked on it. Boom, we got a metal. We got a metal light and it looks beautiful. And so the power of PBR is we have these materials that convince our clients that they are in a space that they are paying us to design and work on for them. And when they see the space as it represents reality as much as possible, right? Virtual reality. So we're trying to virtualize the space as closely as possible to reality. The closer we can achieve that, the more seamless it is for the client to make decisions. And when we make decisions and we leverage decisions, we move the project forward. So let's go back to the presentation. We're going to bounce around between live demos and a presentation, because the point of this is also to show you that, number one, I'm not scared to use Fuzor live in front of a room full of maybe 80 people, because Fuzor is a software that gives me much confidence, and it's also very easy to use. So I have no problem doing live demos in front of you. It's not something that's scary for me at all. So, have you guys ever seen an Unreal model that's been applied to the AEC space and wondered, God, I wish I could do that by myself. I really wish that I could take that level of quality and do it on my own. Because why wouldn't you want to do something like this on your own? I mean, even in these scenes here, which are from games and different VR experiences, there are architectural elements, especially in this scene. This looks like a fight happening in a train station, but look at the architectural elements we have here, and look how convincingly real they are. But I can't do this by myself. Do you know why I can't do this by myself? Because I'm an architect. I do not come from the video game world. I'm not a programmer, I'm not a coder, I'm not a video game artist. I'm just an architect. I have a license, I do architecture, so I don't play in the Unreal world. And the reason why I don't play in the Unreal world is because of what's on the screen right now. This does not give me confidence. This scares me. This is something I would not do in front of all of you, because look how complicated this screen looks. And this is just step one of what we have to do to create an Unreal environment. We have to organize our assets, number one. So you have to get all your assets into Unreal, and then you have to somehow navigate this UX to decide how to organize the assets. That's step one. Step two is we have to set our materials. Now in Unreal, this is not an easy thing to do, because Unreal provides that level of richness, so it actually happens in more of a Dynamo Grasshopper style interface. It's very, very complex. It's very difficult, and nothing here looks easy. And nothing here looks like something I want to learn. It looks like trouble to me. It also looks like something that I can't teach anyone else in my office. It looks like something that I can't train other people to do either. So even if I learn it on my own, it's all on me, right? And we don't want that, because architecture and engineering and construction is all very collaborative. We all work together. So again, we have to add lighting too, right? We have to add lights to the scene. Well, this doesn't look that easy, actually. Look at all the different elements here and over here and over here. It's just too much, but we're adding lighting because lighting is important and we need to. And then we're going to do some animations and fine-tune and adjustments and everything. And God, my head is exploding now. And I want to go home and I want to go to bed and I want to go to sleep because I don't want to do this anymore. Wouldn't it be incredible if we could actually do this on our own? Wouldn't it be great if we could actually just empower ourselves to do this on our own, in our own office, on our own time, without having to fully engage with another company, another, let's say, consultant that's going to charge us. We want to do things on our own. So what's loading in the background right now is a viewer file that I made from Fuzor. Fuzor 2019 has the incredible ability to create what's called a viewer file. And the viewer file is a small piece of Fuzor sort of broken off, and it's given, you can give that little piece as an executable file to your clients, to your design team, and then they can open that file themselves, and then they can run whatever you put in that file, they can run live without having Fuzor. What does that sound like? Sounds like an Unreal Engine file to me, because that's exactly how Unreal operates. The only difference is, though, with Unreal, you have to render your file for VR. Render it. What does that mean? It means the computer has to process all the materials, all the UX, all the information that you put in about the data of the materials. It has to process it into a file. Depending on the size of your file, this processing could take as long as 7 days. The last one that I did took 4 days to render. That means you press render and the computer runs for 4 days straight and then it's done. Now the problem with that is if you open that file at the end of the day and you see something you don't like or there's a mistake, guess what? You have to re-render 4 more days, right? So this workflow, this single-use type of workflow does not fit in our industry. It doesn't fit with what we're trying to do. So here you can see this is a viewer file of Fuzor that's open. So it's not a full copy of Fuzor, it's not a full version of Fuzor, and it does have elements of Fuzor that I have programmed in here myself. So this viewer file is also interactive because I've made it interactive, and we're going to get to that in a second. So I'm going to show you a couple things that we can do with this file, and we can just sort of walk around and navigate the file a little bit. And I'm going to bring you to this marker in the kitchen here. And we're going to click on it because it's spinning and it's green and it's got my attention. And I want to click on it. But what happened was, it's a marker that is saying to my client, hey, we have some kitchen options. Would you like to take a look at those kitchen options? Because these are kitchen options we've probably discussed with our client already. And rather than taking a board and putting little tiny materials that are this big, a little piece of tile that's this big, and you have to imagine that piece of tile being your entire countertop, which you can't do. We have the ability to program these things into Fuzor Custom. So I'm going to click on the first one, which is dark marble. You're going to see the kitchen change. And as I click through each of these, white marble, red marble, the kitchen is adjusting and changing, and I really want to see that from a different angle. And if I don't see it from this front angle, I won't realize that actually the stools are changing too. It's not just the material. The interesting thing about what we have here is that also I have up here, now it's hard to read, but this is the cost information of all the different options. Because what is something that escapes our clients often is the cost implications of their decisions. Sometimes they don't realize that the countertop they want costs $10,000 more than their budget allows. And we will figure that out though a couple months from now. And then someone's gonna have to scramble to make that countertop work within his budget. Because the project will not move if that budget does not pencil, right? So if we can add this information in early on, then we can give the client the power to know more about the selections they're making. So essentially, what a viewer file does is it emulates in a much faster, much simpler, and a much more efficient way what you can do with Unreal. Because again, in Fuzor, we don't render anything. Everything is always rendered, right? So we are a live rendered PBR engine, the first and only one in the world right now. So where Unreal has to render their things, we just save. We just save. A few minutes, no problem. In fact, screenshots don't have to be rendered either. You just save screenshots like this, like water. Boom, 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 screenshots. So I can also get into that and show you guys a little bit. We're also going to talk about the triggers that I did, but let's get back to the questions that drive this talk. Because we just talked about a VR Unreal environment, and let's just take a quick look at some of the things we can do. The architecture office. We have this beautiful hallway. This is the level of detail that we're getting with Fuzor without rendering anything. So for example, if this view here, if I rendered this view, or for example this view, and I said, oh geez, you know what? I didn't notice that this plant here is really not in the right spot. I really want this plant to be in the corner. Uh-oh. If I'm in Unreal, that's going to cost me 4 days. And my deadline's tomorrow. I can't afford those 4 days, right? So what I do with Fuzor is I just go back in the model, I change that, I move the flowers, takes about 10 seconds, and then I save the file again. That's it. So the workflow is continuous and it's seamless. It's a cradle-to-grave workflow that allows us to have the control of our projects and our models that we want. The cost. Does anyone understand the cost of Unreal? Because I just did a model, an Unreal model for the team. And my team is located not in the United States because it's very expensive. The going rate of an Unreal model right now is about $10,000 to $15,000 per room. One room, $10,000 to $15,000. Okay, and that's from a team coming out of South America. In the States, that number is about $20,000 per room. Okay, so here I have an entire model that I did by myself, in-house. It took about 15 minutes, and the cost was nothing because it was part of my workflow. It was part of my working day. So have you ever guys had a conversation with your client and maybe thought they weren't telling you the truth about your design? Maybe they didn't want to give you the raw feedback because they don't want to hurt your feelings, like about our model, and what our clients disliked about our model, and what if it reported back without even the client knowing? What if the model sent an automatic email to my pocket that said, oh, this is what the client did in your model, this is what he selected. What if that could happen? Wouldn't that be incredible? Well, let me show you how that can happen. Because again, at Fuzor we're all about transparency and showing everyone exactly, exposing to everyone exactly how we do things. So here, I'm going to close this really quick. So here I'm going to go into this marker here, which is in the living room. I'm going to click on that. Similar to the other markers, it's bringing up some different living room options. Now, the interesting thing about these options, instead of cost implication here, what we've done is we have different examples of modern 1, modern 2, modern 3, contemporary, so the styles of the different furniture that's going to be placed in that scene. But we also added a description, a detailed description of what that furniture layout looks like. It's chrome, brown leather, and all this kind of stuff. So the client, again, is getting more information and more data. So I'm going to click through these quickly. There's an option 1. There's an option too. But I'd like to see that from top down. I'd like to see that from the Windows side. Contemporary 2, again, I can go and change these views. I am in control of everything you see on the screen. I am in control of this dialog box. I'm in control of that dialog box. I'm in control of the views. I'm in control of everything you see on the screen. And most importantly, what happens when I close? What happens? On a level of 1 to 10, could you please rate the design options you just saw? Could you please tell me what you think about those? This is just a simple slider dialog. So as the user, I'll say, you know what, I think that these were an 8. Okay. Thank you for your feedback. An email, oh, actually, just got to my phone right now, which just says exactly what the client wants. And I'm going to show you what just appeared on my phone. This is an email that's automatically generated from the content that I put into Fuzor, and it tells me what the client selected last, what they selected, how they selected, what they clicked through, and it gives me that information live because I can't necessarily count on my client, to be honest with you, but I can count on the model. I can count on the model to feed me information I need, so I can have conversations with my client about how to move the project forward. So let's talk about our stories, because everyone in this room is always trying to tell a story. We try to tell a story to our clients about our projects. We try to tell a story to our design teams about what we want to do, about our consultants, what we're working with. By telling a story, I mean that we're presenting to them. We're presenting to them in a way that we want to control this presentation, because how we present is going to have an impact on what they see. Typically, this is what they see. These are SketchUp images, because this is this software is used in every architecture office in the world, pretty much. And what do we see in here? Dull, lifeless images. I'm not engaged. I'm not immersed. This guy even tried hard by putting a picture in the background. It didn't work, because it didn't really help me figure anything out. I'm not really engaged in this process at all. I see that the building is interesting, but it doesn't have life. This has life. That has life. That looks like a picture to me. That looks like an image of something that I want to go see. This has life. This is a SketchUp model, by the way. This is the same version of the models I showed you earlier that I brought into Fuzor. And I laced with different materials and different triggers. So these triggers we're talking about, the control, right? I've been showing you guys these triggers throughout the beginning of the talk. When I click on the icon and something happens, how do we make those? Because, you know, I could be tricking you. It could take a lot of time. It could take a lot of people, a lot of knowledge. But again, let's just do it right here. And let's just do it live, because that's the power of Fuzor. And that's what we want. So here, we're going to go to... So opening up a Fuzor file now, and in this file I'm actually going to show you how we create interactivity from a model that looks like this. A model that looks just like this. We're going to elevate this model to a much different level, and we're going to engage the client in our project, right? And we're going to do it very simply, and we're going to do it just a few clicks. So the process that we do this in Fuzor is actually a 1, 2, 3 step process that I'm going to take you through live right now. So right here we have a scene in the living room, and I'm just going to go really quickly over to these two icons, because the moon and the sun, sort of interesting, out of place a little bit. Why are those icons there? Well, they're there because I want to be able to control my scene. And I want to be able to, my idea is when you click on this, I want it to become night. And when you click on this, I want it to become day, right? So let's just quickly do that, because that's the level of control I want to add for my client in this model. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm just going to create 2 quick triggers. You can see them coming up at the bottom there. I'm going to call one of them day, I'm going to call one of them night. And then we're going to work with night. So how does this work? It's a 3-step system. It's an event, action, and then enable. So the trigger is we work with the event. What is the event that is going to activate my scene? And the event is I want to click on the moon, okay? So the event is going to be object selected. Which object am I selecting? Oh, I'm going to select this object. And when I select that object, what do I want to happen? Well, I definitely want the time of day to change. So we're going to change the time of day right there to 11 p.m. I also want the lights to be set to come on. And I also want that element right there that I'm selecting, because it's selected and you're seeing the properties of the element there. I don't want to see that. I don't want my client to see that. So I'm going to tell it that after you select this object, please deselect it right away. And then I'm going to enable my trigger, and then I'm going to click on the moon. How long did that take me? That took about 30 seconds, right? It took about 30 seconds to create that trigger, but now I want to go back to day, but I really can't because I'm stuck in night mode, so let's make a trigger for day. And again, we're going to quite simply go into object selected. I'm going to click on the sun. What happens when I click on that sun? Well, I want the time of day to change back to 10 a.m., please. And then I also want the object selected to be false. And when I enable that trigger, I'm going to click this on. So seamlessly, effortlessly, in seconds, I took and elevated a SketchUp model, and I've given it this level of control. This is something quick that I can show you in this presentation, but this goes as far as your mind can think. Whatever kind of elements, whatever kind of interaction you want to create, we can actually pretty much handle in Fuzor. And I want to go one further because this is actually kind of interesting and fun. What if I wanted to do something cool for my client and say, you know what, I'm going to put a light switch in this scene here, and I would like to click on that light switch and have that light switch turn on and off the lights in my project. So right there, get the light switch. I even applied a little bit of lighting to the light switch, as you see. So I put my light switch in there live, right? When I click on it now, nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. So what I want to do is I want to open my trigger system again. And I'm going to create a new trigger. I'm going to call this one lights. Now, we're creating a very similar trigger to the ones we have already, because what did we say we want to happen? When I click on the light switch, I want the lights to turn on and off, just like it would in reality. So again, I'm going to have object selected. What object are we selecting? There we go. So the what object we are selecting, you click on, you select the object, it stops opening. Something wrong with that. So we're going to change that to a different switch. Because what I'm showing you now is that even with the ease of using Fuzor, so I can go in and say, okay, for my lights, object selected, that object. When that object is selected, I want the lights to toggle, right, on and off. So I'm going to enable that. And then when I select these lights, selecting the lights. There we go. So you can see, as I select and click, the lights are actually turning on and turning off. So that element that I'm clicking on could be anything. It just happened to be a light switch. I could program anything to do that. That full control over the environment is what gives us the ability to engage our clients, because we can elevate a simple model and turn it into something that's truly engaging.
Yes, question. The element that you use for this trigger, does it need to be a Fuzor element?
No, it does not.
Hmm?
No, the elements that I use for that trigger were from SketchUp, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can use elements from a lot of different places because Fuzor accepts different models from all over to build the library within Fuzor. So I've shown you guys a lot of stuff tonight about how we can take control of our models, how we can take control of the elements that we work with, how we can engage our clients more. How large do you think the team was that put this presentation together? Because there's a lot of stuff we showed, a lot of models, a lot of content. Could have been something like this size. That's pretty simple, pretty normal. Could have been something like this though, because we got a lot of people working. Or could have been like this. In fact, could it just be me? Because I did all this work by myself, without any help from anyone. Because that's how easy Fuzor is to use. It's extremely user-friendly, it's extremely simple, and it can be taught to other people as well. So everything you saw on this screen tonight, I did by myself. I did on my own. Without any special training, without any special working. And what was that tool again that we were talking about? Because this tool is quite incredible. Because this tool is something that can be taught in-house with no special background, right? No special training. And a fraction of the time and the cost. And I don't mean a small fraction. I mean a big fraction. A big fraction in time savings and cost is very large on top of that. And this is going to revolutionize architecture for the next decade. But why is it going to do that? Because that's a big statement. Well, the main reason why is because it's going to give us a solution that is simple to use and that we need, because it gives the power, it puts the power of the control of the project back in our hands. Everything you saw tonight can be done by anyone in this room. In fact, there are some things that we have in other presentations where I've shown videos of projects that were done by our receptionist, by our secretary, that have no background in architecture and engineering or construction at all. But it just proves how easy we can take our time, save money, and take the control back. Because that's the most important thing. Now beyond that, what's also really important is that you understand that we are not a lone wolf. We already work and partner with all the companies and softwares that you already work with. We are already part of your software ecosystem. We work with Trimble, we work with Revit, we work with Autodesk, we work with everybody to make sure that we have the best solution out there. So what I want you to take away from tonight's talk is that those questions that have been burning in your mind, and there are more, but those questions, how can I get this? How can I make it look better? How can I not give this to somebody else and just do it myself? We've answered those questions. And we've answered them in a way that everyone in this room can experience and everyone in this room can use to create. Because again, no specialties are required. And Fuzor 2019, it's absolutely my honor to come here and present it to you because look what it can do. Let's SketchUp. That's Fuzor. SketchUp. Fuzor. The difference between these is incredible. Because I'm engaged in the second picture. I'm not necessarily engaged in this picture, but I'm certainly engaged here because I'm seeing, I want to walk toward this door because of what's happening there. I want to go see what's going on, what's causing that reflection. So the difference between these elements, Fuzor allows you to create these different environments that elevate the models you currently have and engage your clients more in the process of what you're trying to do, and therefore creating more successful project results. Thank you very much for your time.